Welcome back to the FTN NFL Team Preview Series hosted by Boom Fantasy, your top choice for daily fantasy sports action. Boom Fantasy, innovative games cater to casual and hardcore fans. You can win up to 500 times your entry only at Boom Fantasy. Download it on the App Store and Google Play. Use that promo code FTN to get a no-sweat bonus up to $100. Today, we head out to Minnesota. Only person I talked to, Matthew Coller on X. Matthew Coller, he's the author of Footballs is a Numbers Game. He's going to talk to us about the Vikings. Matthew, I appreciate a few minutes. Let's start at the big position. Quarterback here, J.J. McCarthy, Sam Darnold. What are you hearing? How's it going so far?
Well, I think right now, Sam Darnold is clearly the Vikings quarterback. There really wasn't any question about that through any point in OTAs and minicamp. Who was QB1? Sam Darnold took every single rep with the starters. McCarthy may have mixed in for a couple, but not very many. They kind of have it spread out. So it's the starters field over here and like your Thanksgiving meal where the kiddie table's over there for the less experienced players. And JJ McCarthy spent the learning period of the offseason, as they call it, at the kiddie table, which is totally fine. He only threw about 700 passes in college. He was the youngest quarterback of the six that got drafted in the first round. And the Vikings made it really clear by paying Sam Darnold $10 million and through everything that they've said to us, which is we are going to be patient with JJ McCarthy. We're not going to rush this process. We are not going to put him out there until he is 100% fully mastered the offense. And who knows when that could be? It could be 3 weeks into training camp and they feel like he's just looking better than Sam Darnold. It could be 11 weeks into the season. We really don't know. If I were to bet right now, though, I would say that Sam Darnold will start week 1, and it wouldn't be the biggest shock in the world if he started the entire season and they just let JJ McCarthy develop. As much as nobody wants that for a first-round draft pick, I don't have to tell you or your audience all the quarterbacks in the past who have sat the bench at first, gotten their feet wet through preseason and practiced for a year with the team and then taken over as the quarterback. But I think they really do believe that Sam Darnold could have this mid-career surge as we've seen from some other guys like Geno Smith or going back to Jake Plummer, who struggled so much with the Arizona Cardinals, or even if you want to shout out Rich Gannon, there's been a lot of quarterbacks who've done this over the years that struggled at first and then eventually improved. And from what we saw in minicamp, I thought Sam Darnold looked very, very comfortable in Kevin O'Connell's offense, especially when Justin Jefferson showed up to minicamp. Then he looked even more comfortable.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson makes us all look good. Let's go to the backfield. Of course, you can tie in the offensive line. Aaron Jones has come over here from Green Bay. Obviously versatile passing, running game, so prolific with the Packers. Ty Chandler right now scheduled to be the backup. Talk about the running back touch share and offensive line as we head into 2024.
Yeah, Aaron Jones is definitely going to be the guy for this team. I mean, they brought him in because they've been one of the worst running teams over the last 2 years since Kevin O'Connell took over, and they experimented with Alexander Mattison as RB1 last year, but he's more of a backup type of running back. And when Ty Chandler got his opportunity, he was really terrific at times. A very explosive runner, runs a sub 4.4, but he's also like 210, 215 pounds, so he could break tackles and has that big play explosive ability, but he really didn't show much of a capability to be a 3-down back. The pass protection was a real struggle. I think he can catch the ball out of the backfield to some extent, but not in a difference-making way. So they wanted to go out and get Aaron Jones to be that 3-down back. The question with Aaron Jones is always how much can you put on his plate, because he was injured last year for a handful of games, took him until the second half of the season to get healthy. And then in the playoffs, he goes completely off. And the Vikings would love that version over 17 games, but we all know about running backs and the age curve and so forth. There's only a handful of running backs that have even gone for 1,000 yards past the age of about 28 in recent years. So I expect that there will be a split in the share. And also I expect that regardless of who's playing quarterback, Kevin O'Connell's going to pass that football. I mean, there were times last year where Josh Dobbs was the starting quarterback or Nick Mullins, and you would think, well, all right, they're going to play conservative. They're going to play it safe. Not really. No, they just kept throwing the ball because that's what their offense is built around. So Sam Darnold's going to get his chances to throw for a lot of yards, I think. And the one thing that will benefit him, though, is better pass protection in the backfield and probably a lot of throws toward Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler. The last 2 years, the receiving game out of the backfield has been pretty miserable, but I think Jones is a massive upgrade there. I just wouldn't expect some 12 or 1,300 yard season from him.
Yeah, and I think the offensive line should be better also. And if they're going to pass the ball, they certainly have the weapon to do it. Justin Jefferson, death taxes, best receiver in the game, but also Jordan Addison, who really pops, showed big playability here, really shows a chance to get down that field and have a lot of passes come his way. We'll get into Hockenson, the tight ends, in a minute, but specifically talk about that pass protection and about those two golden wide receivers who are elite.
Yeah, I mean, from a fantasy perspective, I wouldn't expect Jordan Addison to score all the touchdowns as he did last year, but there is a lot of attention that goes to Justin Jefferson in the red zone. You know, we review the all 22 tape and everything after every game, and every time the Vikings got inside the 20, it was three guys paying attention to Justin Jefferson. So when you hear, oh, well, he doesn't score that many touchdowns, it's similar to the Julio Jones thing, where if the opposing team puts every player on him, you just throw it to somebody else. And that's what really helped Jordan Addison. I think it will again for this year. But one thing that I noticed from Addison and spoke with him about was just improving from year one to year two, because he came into the league on the lighter side. And what we've seen from him, put on a little bit of weight, not too much to where he's slowing down, but just that natural rookie to sophomore year. What he said he really worked on, and the cornerbacks were commenting on this as well, is his releases off the line of scrimmage. When you're in college, yeah, you're working on some details, but in the NFL, you better have a strong game plan off the line of scrimmage. So he's been working quite a bit on that in the offseason. He is a total football junkie, so I'm not surprised that he would have a main focus to try to get better. Even if he has a similar season to last year, that would be still very solid. But with the fact that KJ Osborne left for the New England Patriots and Brandon Powell right now is wide receiver 3, and TJ Hockenson is probably not going to start the season, the target share for Jordan Addison could be extremely high. And you know it's going to go toward Justin Jefferson. I've seen some people wondering, well, if it's not Kirk Cousins, is he going to get... Yeah, he's going to get his catches, because even when Nick Mullins was playing, he threw for 400 yards in two separate games, or 395 or something like that. It was like 800 yards in 2 games, mostly just targeting Justin Jefferson. The whole offensive scheme is built to get Jefferson open. So I promise everyone that Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy will be throwing the football in his direction. I know that's going to happen.
Well, you mentioned Hockenson, any update, any idea when he will be back? Because obviously when he's on the field, short to intermediate routes, open things deep, and the sidelines as well for your X receivers. Update on TJ Hawkinson's health and a projection of when you think he gets back on the field.
Yeah, as far as what we saw in OTAs and minicamp, he was just working out on a side field, as all players recovering from injuries do, and was not doing a whole heck of a lot. There might have been some jogging mixed in, but that was about it. With Hockenson, it was really unfortunate because he hurt the ACL and the MCL, so they had to let the MCL heal before they could do the ACL surgery, pushing it back on his timeline. So I think it was maybe January or even into February when they ended up doing that surgery. That makes the extended time for him to come back a lot more than it would have been if they could have done the surgery a day or two after he got hurt. I wouldn't expect to see him for, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks into the season. I mean, we have seen ACLs get a lot easier for people to recover from that surgery than in the past, but normally it takes a while before somebody is fully ramped up. Even if you have just a knee cleanup or a little ankle something surgery wise and missed training camp, it doesn't just like, oh, throw him out. This isn't Madden. Like, oh, he's ready to go, so just pop him back out there. And I think they signed Robert Tonyan in part because of that. He looked really good in minicamp, by the way. But I don't have high expectations in the first quarter of the season of seeing much from TJ Hockenson, and it would be thrilling for them if they could get him back anytime sooner than that. But I think they're going to be patient with that one.
And listen, let's turn to the defense here. Last question, then I'll get you out of here. The defense dramatically improved per Aaron Schatz here at FTN Fantasy DVOA, went from 24th to 11th overall defensively. And then you look at the draft here, Matthew, all of a sudden, the way things fell in the first round, there's Dallas Turner sitting at pick 17. So thoughts here on the defense, because this is a fairly decent schedule that you have. You have some non-conference games, not too difficult. And then you have some road matchups, Giants, Titans. I mean, winnable games here. So talk about the defense, which had a huge improvement last year and I think can really fortify, depending on the quarterback situation, a schedule that I think is somewhat reasonable for the Vikings this year.
Yeah, I mean, what Brian Flores did for this defense cannot be understated because Aaron Schatz' ranking is pretty solid, I think, from what I saw last year. And if they hadn't had a couple injuries at the end of the year, which the Lions kind of beat their faces in on defense when they were playing with kind of half the squad, but if they had a full defense, maybe they even sneak into Schatz' top 10 there. And that was entirely just scheme. I mean, the talent on that defense last year outside of Danielle Hunter was not reflective of a top 15 defense. And yet he blitzed a ton, used guys in a lot of different ways, discovered Ivan Pace Jr. and Josh Metellus, who were not on our radar really at all. And those guys ended up playing a ton of snaps, really valuable roles. And then they go out this year and they make 2 day one free agency signings, Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel, which are big, two players that could be versatile for them, especially Van Ginkel does a lot of different things well. And then in the draft, getting Dallas Turner. So what Brian Flores is now doing is getting those chess pieces that he likes to use in a lot of different ways. And then maybe a couple of quiet signings that could be improvements, even if they're not star players, like Jerry Tillery, who was a first round bust, but actually had some moments last year for the Raiders. And then Shaq Griffin, who's bounced around, but is a veteran player. That's better than having someone who's a replacement level player. So I think they're a much deeper defense and a more developed defense from last year, and that they've made up pretty well for losing Danielle Hunter. It's really, when you talk about that schedule, it's really the start of the schedule. Okay, they open with the Giants, but after that, you got, CJ Stroud, Jordan Love. You're not too far away from that Lions offense. So they will be really tested early on. But I think overall, the expectation is this defense could hover around the top 10 again.
Yeah, great point as always, folks. That's about as robust as you're going to get a breakdown of the Vikings in 10 minutes. Got to follow Matthew Coller on X at Matthew Coller, author of Football is a Numbers Game, covers the Vikings, does a great job. Matthew, thank you so much for a few minutes here. Looking forward to coming back together with you in August as we get closer to the season. Exciting times. Who's going to be quarterback? Justin Jefferson is signed. Looking for the Vikings to have a big season, especially with that defensive improvement.
Sounds good, Mike. Thanks for having me on, man.
The NFL Team Preview Series is sponsored by Boom Fantasy, your top choice for daily fantasy sports action. Boom Fantasy has the most innovative games that cater to both casual and hardcore fans. Win up to 500 times your entry only at Boom Fantasy. Download now on the App Store and Google Play. Use promo code FTN to get a no-sweat bonus up to $100.